Hello there, Mr. Sutton here, bringing you the AB Calculus 3.5 Extra Practice number 3 solutions on product and quotient rules. For this problem, they want us to find f prime without using the product or quotient rule. So that means we should simplify this and use the power rule then. So distributing this, we have 20x to the 7th minus 5x squared. And then just using the power rule, this is going to be 140x to the 6th minus 10x. For this problem, they want us to find f prime without using product or quotient rule. So I'm going to expand this, simplify it first, then I'll use the power rule. So just using my squared binomial shortcut with a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, this is going to be 9x squared, and then we multiply these together and double it. So that's going to be minus 66x, and then square this last thing, this is going to be positive 121. Using power rule now, this is going to be 18x minus 66. On this problem, to figure out the derivative of this without using a quotient rule, we're going to go ahead and divide everything by 4x to the second. So that's going to be 3x squared minus 2x plus, this is going to be, let's see here, the 4's cancel, we have x to the negative 1. And now just using power rule straight across, we've got 6x minus 2, and then this will be negative x to the negative 2. For this one, they want us to figure out the derivative without using the product or quotient rules. So that means we're going to have to multiply this whole thing out and use the power rule instead. So let's see here. Let me do negative x to the 5th times 3x squared. That's going to be negative 3x to the 7th. And then multiplying that by 2, that's minus 2x to the 5th. Now we take the 2x cubed and multiply it out. So that's going to be 6x to the 5th. And then multiplying by 2, we've got 4x cubed. And finally, this negative 5 gets multiplied. So we have negative 15x squared minus 10. And I'm just going to combine some like terms, just less derivatives for me to take. Really, the only like terms, though, are these x to the 5th terms, which I can combine to 4x to the 5th. Other than that, pretty much everything else is hanging around. All right, so now that you've done all that work, don't forget to actually take the derivative using the power rule in this case. So going left to right, we've got negative 21x to the 6th plus 20x to the 4th plus 12x squared minus 30x, and then 10 just becomes 0 because it's a constant. So there's our derivative. On this problem, we're trying to find the derivative, and they want us specifically to use the product or quotient rule. So although it would be faster just to divide both of these things by x cubed and use the power rule, they want us to demonstrate quotient rule here. So we're going to go with u prime v minus uv prime all over v squared. And I'll set up a box and ribbon to organize things. So we've got our numerator, 3x squared minus 1. Denominator is x cubed. And now their derivatives, which are 6x and 3x squared. Using the ribbon to multiply this out, we've got 6x times x cubed minus parentheses 3x squared minus 1 times 3x squared. And then all over, we're going to tie off the ribbon here with x cubed to the second, because it's v squared down there. So whatever this term is, I have to square it. They said don't simplify, so I'm going to take them at their word. For this problem, I'm supposed to find f prime by using a product or quotient rule. So although it would also be possible to distribute this and use the power rule, I'm going to use product rule instead because that's what the directions want. So let me set up my product rule, u prime v plus uv prime. Box and ribbon time. I've got my two factors. I've got radical x, which I'm going to call x to the 1/2 in here, just to make it a little easier to work with. And then we've got 2x squared minus 4 plus 2x to the 1/2 over here. So we've got u and v. Now for u prime and v prime, the derivatives. So x to the 1/2, that's going to become 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. And this polynomial-ish sort of radical thing is going to become 4x. And then this is going to be just 1/2 times 2 is just 1, so 1x to the negative 1/2. All right, multiplying all this out now using the ribbon, we've got 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 times this whole big expression up here, plus x to the 1/2 times parentheses 4x plus x to the negative 1/2. They said don't simplify, so how about we just not simplify? For this problem, I'm trying to find the derivative of this using a product or quotient rule. Now, the fastest way to do this would just be distribute it out and use the power rule, at least if you want a simplified answer. But they want product or quotient, so let's go with product because this is a product. So that would be u prime v plus uv prime. And then let me set up my box and ribbon to organize things. So I've got u, that's the first factor, 3x minus 8. And here's v, x squared plus 2. Now I need u prime and v prime, the derivatives down here. So that would be 3 and 2x. Multiplying it out now with the ribbon, we've got 3 parentheses x squared plus 2 plus parentheses 3x minus 8 times 2x. And no need to simplify, so we'll just leave it that way. For this one, I'm trying to find the derivative of this function. Now, there's no way to do this at this point in your education other than using the quotient rule. There is another way to do it, but you would need something called the chain rule for that. And if you haven't studied the chain rule yet, it's not going to help you here. So let's go with quotient rule for this. So that's u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. I'll set up the box and ribbon to help me organize all that. So I've got my numerator, which is just 1, so that'll actually make life a lot easier. And then denominator is 5x to the 4th plus 2. Derivatives of those, u prime and v prime. Derivative of 1 is just 0. Derivative of this expression is 20x cubed. Multiplying it out with the ribbon now, we've got 0 parentheses 5x to the 4th plus 2, which I know is 0, but I'll just write it this way, because they said I didn't need to simplify. And then we got minus 1 times 20x cubed. Again, you could simplify it, but there's no need. Dividing all that now by v squared, so that's the 5x to the 4th plus 2 quantity squared. For this problem, they want the derivative of this function, unsimplified if you want. Now this one, there's really no way to do it except by using the quotient rule. So that's u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. Let's set up a box and ribbon to help us out there. So I have my numerator, x to the 5th minus 4x cubed plus 3x squared there. Denominator, we've got 3x to the 5th minus 3. And derivatives now, we've got 5x to the 4th minus 12x squared plus 6x. Over here, this is just 15x to the 4th. That negative 3 is gone because it's a constant. Multiplying it out with the ribbon, we have parentheses, all this stuff in the lower left, times parentheses 3x to the 5th minus 3. And then we're going to subtract parentheses all this stuff in the upper left times 15x to the 4th. So there we go. And then finally divide by this expression here, which is v squared. So 3x to the 5th minus 3 quantity squared. And I'm really glad I don't have to simplify this. I'm just going to leave this the way it is. On this problem, I'm given a table of values for f, g, and their derivatives at the values 1 through 4. And I'm also told that h of x is really f of x over g of x. It's a quotient. Based off of that, I want h prime of 3. All right, so I am going to use the quotient rule on this one. And I'll set up a box and ribbon to help me. So there's my quotient rule, u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. And for my box and ribbon, I've got my numerator, f of x, denominator, g of x, and the derivatives of those, which are, of course, f prime and g prime. Now, I could multiply all this out and plug in 3, but I'm actually going to plug 3 in directly inside the box, and then I'll pull stuff out and put it together. So we've got f of 3, which if I look in the table, f of 3 is 4, so that's the upper left there. G of 3 is going to be 4 as well. Now we need f prime of 3, which they tell us is 1/2, and g prime of 3 is negative 1/2. Multiplying that out, I've got 1/2 times 4 minus 4 times negative 1/2. So this is using the quotient rule again, and all of that's going to be over 4 squared. Now I can simplify this a little bit. In the numerator, I've got, let's see, half of 4 is 2. We've got plus 2 then over here, so 2 plus 2 is 4 in the numerator. Denominator, we've got 4 squared. So 4 over 4 squared, or 4 over 16, is just going to be 1/4.